mysterious death curse washes over the land, driven by a powerful artifact known as the Soulmonger. 4 would-be heroes have been sent to the jungles of Chult to destroy the cause of this terrible affliction. Vale, the half-elven paladin, who's just now learning of his divinely granted powers. Ubo, the total monk from a distant land, who's as quick with his wit as he is with his staff. Brilinya, Aasimar warlock, sent on this quest by her temple, discovering herself in this strange new land. And Gunslinger Cole, tiefling artificer and archaeologist who may just dig up more than she bargained for. This motley band of adventurers must work together to brave the poisonous plants, venomous monsters, thundering dinosaurs, and rotting undead of the jungle. Join the omnipotent dungeon master Jake from Mini-Terrain Domain to see if our heroes can find the Soulmonger, uncover the deeper mysteries of Chult, and free the world from the death curse. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to Chult of Personality.
Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini-Terrain Domain, and this is Chult of Personality. This is episode 37, called Old Scars and Fresh Wounds, in our long-running Tomb of Annihilation campaign, happening right here most Sundays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We are getting back on track after a couple weeks hiatus. Weirdly, especially with this being Chult, weather has played a big part in it. It doesn't matter where we are in the United States or Canada. It seems like all of us are getting pummeled with ridiculously cold temperatures and high levels of snow, and it does affect our day-to-day lives. Plus, there was apparently some kind of sporting event a couple weeks ago, or last week, or whenever. See, I don't even know when it was. I think it was last week. And these three, Mike, Megan, and Connor ultimately took on a beholder and foiled my plans to TPK them because I was just a little too lenient with what they could purchase with the gold I gave them. And Connor is, bless his heart, always chooses the most obscure poisons. It has nothing to do with being a min-maxer. But you can check out, actually, I don't think you can check out Eye of the Mind yet. It is archived in the video section on Twitch, and will be available on YouTube soon. Actually, that's one thing I want to talk about in the front here, because this applies to all MTD shows. Because we are a Twitch affiliate, I cannot do what I used to do, which is simulcast. So it can be difficult because I have to wait 2 days to upload videos and get them on the channel for people to watch, especially when people are messaging me that want to watch the show. Well, YouTube has a relatively new feature that allows you to schedule videos when you upload them. So beginning immediately, I will be uploading the videos. As soon as we're done playing the game, I will upload the archive and have it scheduled for 2 days later. So I can't not have time to upload it. So you'll be able to see those VODs a lot sooner. For all other announcements and information, stay tuned. At roughly the halfway point, we've got a video coming up. Thank you, Prupra, for dropping 300 bits. We absolutely appreciate it. Thank you so much. What was I saying? Oh, there's a new advertisement that has all of our announcements covered in there. Otherwise, you can type in !! chat commands in the Twitch live chat, and you can see what all else you can type in, such as eventually character names, but you can type some of the players' names and get their social medias. And the one I'm going to drop right now is the last announcement I'm going to do before we start playing, and that is 10K giveaway. I am running a a drive towards 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. We are currently at over 9,100 and some odd number. And while that drive is going on, I'm giving away 3 Game Masters bundles that I have put together. And they include starter sets, they include miniatures, a whole bunch of dice, and one grand prize winner will also get a set of core rule books, the DMG, the Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook, and the Dungeon Master screen reincarnated, plus the starter set minis, and 6 sets of dice. All of that just by following that link for the giveaway, which is happening on my birthday, April 16th. I will be doing the drawing. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, follow that and you can see how to enter to win. Otherwise, all announcements will be at the break. Reminder to the players, you do have 9 domain dice. Domain dice rules are explained down below, how you can use them. And you guys all know how you can use those things. So I'm going to go ahead and bring us up to speed since it's been a few weeks. The more recent events had the characters of Vale, Brilinya, Dunala, and Eric heading to, being sent actually from the Aarakocra Monastery of Istafall to the once amazing gardens, and still relatively amazing gardens, of Nangalore, to retrieve the fabled Black Orchid in order for Ashara, the teacher of Istafall and mother of Eric, to perform a ritual. So they headed down there. They faced a whole bunch of wicked bird creatures, and finally the Medusa Zakare, who was ultimately laid to rest in a violent fashion. As they secured the Black Orchid, returned to Istafall, and Ashara was able to perform the Dance of the 7 Winds, granting Dunala, Vale, and Brilinya the power of flight with actual physical wings, and they began the long journey of 3 continuous days of flight towards the forbidden city of Omu. Upon arriving to the region of Omu and seeing this lost city laid out in the jungle below them, they were attacked by stone gargoyles and a massive rock, a gigantic bird. But that gigantic bird proved to be no problem for these adventurers, as they simply polymorphed it. They turned it into a small planet. They polymorphed it, and it crashed to its death some 400 feet below. They were able to safely land just as they were sensing that the power of their wings, the ritual, was fading. They landed in an area just past the entrance to the city, outside of a small walled section of the city, this walled compound. When they landed, Brilinya moved forward to see what was happening. And we're actually going to pick up at this point, since that was kind of our cliffhanger, and I want to make sure everything is fresh in the minds of the players and the characters as we pick up at this point. It is midday. The jungle, of course, is hot. You are all tired. I believe one or more of you have some levels of exhaustion you picked up from the flight. 3 days of flying. You've landed after fighting these creatures. Excuse me. And you see that as you peek your head around the corner, there's a break in the wall of this compound. And I'll bring the map up real quick. This is a reminder, this is the region of Omu where you have all landed. And looking at the left-hand side of the screen where there's kind of an indentation in the cliff walls, You see that walled-in compound with about a little less than a dozen buildings inside there. That opening to the right is exactly where you are peering around into Brilinya. As you peer around the corner, you see that smoke is drifting up from within the compound. As you approach this break in the wall, you see that there's actually the remnants of a wooden gate that has been violently breached. Splinters and fractures of wood and iron lay around the ground. And as you begin looking around, you can see scorch marks that are defacing some of the buildings. But your eye is drawn towards the center of the compound, where you can see an open plaza. And all around this plaza, it is littered with the charred corpses of deceased humans or humanoids. One of the corpses is being torn apart by a pack of wild dogs. You can see, besides the scattering of these human corpses, you see one area where there is a bigger, more deliberate pile of a burned out pyre. A glaive has been thrust into the remains of this burned out pyre. Charred snake skulls and blackened inhuman vertebrae are lashed to the spear, twisting up around its handle. On a wall of a building nearby, a symbol has been daubed in ash. A snake curled in a spiral, gripping a circle in its jaws. And that is what you see, and you can smell the strong scent of charred flesh and death as you see all of this and take this all in. What are you going to do?
You would hear a large wail coming from Brilinya and a whimper as she runs towards the corpse that is being torn apart by the dogs. She's tear-stained. The tears are just streaming down her face as she goes up to the, "Go on, get out of here!" And she's gonna try and push them away, get them away from this corpse.
Make a intimidation check.
19.
A couple of them stand their ground and are growling back at you, but the others of them quickly, at the sign of you coming running in, they dart away like wild animals that aren't used to encountering living beings. And then the two that are standing their ground take a hesitant, tentative snip, and one of them grabs at the remains of a burned and chewed arm. You can see the blackened flesh, but you can still see the red and pink underneath as it tears away this arm and runs off into a corner of the compound. And you can already hear them snarling and fighting, but they've left the vicinity. You scared them off. Vale, Dunala, Eric, you see as Brilinya had snuck up to the edge here, looked momentarily, and then suddenly with a cry took off running into the compound, and you hear her hollering at something. What do the three of you do?
Dunala had been praying when Brilinya first went in there. He'd been praying for the rock and its death and its soul. And hearing her run off, he turns at her scream, and unfurling his wings, he would actually glide over there to see what was going on. Upon seeing the dogs and her showing them off, he would land back again, the wings furling in. And he would say to you, Brilinya, "The dogs must eat too. It is the way of Chult."
Dunala, you see that as your wings furl in, You feel them begin to lose their form and their shape as the ritual spell of flight is leaving its effect on you. But that is perhaps overshadowed as you now take in this pyre. And you see the symbol that is painted in ash on the wall, the symbol of a snake curled in a spiral, gripping a circle in its jaws. You immediately recognize this symbol as being a sigil of Dendar, the Night Serpent, devouring the world. This is a symbol of the Yonti.
Upon seeing the sacred, I guess, representation of what his second dual religion, he looks at it for a moment, and then back to you, Brilinya. Would Brilinya have said anything about the dog comment he made?
No, I think for her, she is doubled over on herself, crouched down over this corpse, almost holding on to it, just weeping.
So he would look back down to you, and he would actually rest a hand on your shoulder before turning and looking over his own shoulder and saying, Vale, Eric, there are enemies about.
Brilinya, make me a perception check.
That is a 10.
Yeah, you're just caught up in this tragedy before you as you are holding this burned and defiled corpse. Vale, Eric, what are you doing?
Eric is just probably has perched up a little bit higher than the actual ground, perhaps on an awning or other kind of outcropping of a building. Just kind of getting more of a bird's eye view of what's going on. What a pun. Just he's going to become alert at the scream, but seeing Junala race off and nothing else happening because of it has kind of assured him that it's kind of been dealt with. And he's just almost just taking in the sight, just like in wonder, in awe, and just in, admiration of just the thing hidden within the canopy of trees in the jungle world of Chult.
So you're just sort of taking on a status of looking around.
Yeah. Half century, half tourist,
Okay. Vale.
Vale would be on all fours. And it would take a little while for anything to register. At first, my hands feeling this like kind of long grass. It feels like almost like a distant memory from the days of flying. To feel like soft grass in my hands again, and even like intermixed with like small sharpened stones. The exhaustion and pain just takes up so much of my head, and I can just, the only thing I can hear is the rhythmic rushing of blood coursing through my body, and the deep breaths as I'm just trying to draw in wind. I hardly notice the wings begin to dissipate just in kind of a snowfall of blue feathers, and snapping out of it, I just managed to grab a feather and tuck it into my armor before it all falls like just like blossoms from a tree. We like stand up, putting my hand against the wall to try and steady myself and breathe. And it's only then that I begin to hear the screams. I slowly make my way around the corner, drawing my rapier, but not drawing it fully. I'm not completely 100%. and I kind of walk around the corner.
It is Vale and Brilinya. And Eric, if you can hear me, and Dunal will turn, and as he turns, his wings disintegrate into like that cape of feathers falling after him. He points to the symbol, ashenly drawn into the wall, and he says, "It's a holy symbol, and this is a holy shrine. These people have been sacrificed by one T. We will need to summon the Commandant, Vale, as we are deep in enemy territory now. This I know."
Eric, from your vantage point high up, you kind of see the lay of this compound, and you quickly take in that there are some of the buildings nearest the center of the compound are slightly crumbling, many from age, but some where the scorch marks are. They appear to have been blown apart in the attack. All told, there are about 30 corpses in the area. From what you can tell, they are all human or humanoid. It's very difficult to tell based on how badly burned most of the bodies are. You hear, actually, from the building that you've perched on, which is right near the edge of this courtyard. Part of this building has itself, the whole face of it had been crumbled down, and some of the debris stretches out about a dozen feet into the courtyard. And you hear from below you in this rubble a muffled "Help me. Help me."
The others would see Eric take to the sky swiftly and quietly as he goes to investigate this sound. He's going to use his flight feathers, I guess, that will muffle his sound in air to try and, like, approach this sound quietly and try to.
It was
be able to
immediately below you.
Oh, was it immediately below? Gotcha.
Yeah, the building that you are perched on, the face of it
Yeah.
has been crumbled, and you hear it coming from from all of the stone debris just below you.
So everyone would see just Eric just like looking down, I guess, like as much as he can lean down into upside down into this hole, if he can look into it.
You see much debris, big and small stones, and you can just make out, almost difficult to see at first, but because of the you see a small puff of dust, and you realize that part of what looked like the dust of the collapse is a human man who is almost completely covered by this rubble. So you can sort of make out his face, bruised, dried blood on the side of his head, but he appears to be alive.
Eric makes the sound of a bird call, one that might be, discreet in a world of in a jungle of birds. But he'd make it loud enough, and he's probably done this before with you guys. He's trying to get your guys' attention while still being a bit discreet. He needs to be like gesturing, there's somebody in there.
Upon turning from bending down to see Eric, she looks at him in earnest. Is there someone down there?
He gives it like a sharp nod.
She would run over to the hole. Is it a hole?
It's
and then
it's a pile of debris. The hole would be the exposed opening of this small building.
Eric flashes Vale a worried look as Brilinya just like books it. Kind of one like, hey, you gonna stop her? Kind of look.
Brilinya would begin to try and listen And in this hole, you'd hear her, "Hello? Please call out so we know where you are."
Help! Is it? Who's there? Please. I'm
As soon as
dying.
as soon as she hears it, she would begin trying to move away, take out the rubble if she could, or try and see if she can find anywhere that she can wriggle into or anything like that.
And as she does this, Eric would drop from this perch to land next to her, and she's going to be like the watchful guardian, I guess, over her to make sure that if anything bad happens to Brilinya, that he's going to be able to intervene. He's been suspicious of this.
Vale, Dunala, Brilinya has rushed over to this pile and is beginning to pull at stones, small, medium, tugging at large stones that are perhaps a bit too big for her to move. What do you guys do?
I'm going to I'll sheath my rapier and as quickly as I possibly can, probably a jog or a light jog. I'll go over there and start pulling some stones off. Trying to see what. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's basically what I'm going to be doing.
Dunala watches everyone running off, and he doesn't say anything, and there's not much visible reaction from him. But he is concerned, not for the person under there, but for this entire situation. It seems too engineered to him. And with the mind of a Wanti, he knows that if that person buried in that rubble was not a trap, then there's another trap behind that, or another trap behind the idea of that second trap, and that everyone's in great danger. But before he can even address all that, he has to address this profane shrine before him. And so, uncorking his water skin, he's going to cast Shape Water, and he's going to basically splash the water across the symbol of Dindar to wash it away. And he's going to pull the glaive out of the pyre.
That is done easily enough as the water begins to move through the air, powered by your magic, and wash away the sigil on the wall. It begins to leak down in long streaks, muddy black streaks of ash, until it's completely erased. As you remove the glaive, many of the bones, the glaive seem to be sort of the spine of this pyre, and the charred snake skulls and the vertebrae and such begin to fall apart and fall away as you potentially are desecrating a Yuan-ti shrine.
And then he will take the glaive, assuming it's wooden, and Dunala will attempt to snap it over his knee.
You can do that. The wood has been weakened by the fire, so no strength necessary. As you snap it into, there is an audible crack that sort of reverberates. There's a flutter of nearby birds startled by the sound. Dunala, give me an insight check. You're muted.
That's going to be a 17 total.
You get the sense that whatever happened here is probably it's probably as much as a few days old. It's not likely, given the state that this happened within this day, but it's probably, as near as you can tell, it's 1 to 3 days old that this attack happened.
1 to 3 days old. Dunala is instantly concerned over the fact that there's someone who has survived somehow under these debris for 1 to 3 days. Everything to him is just the puzzle pieces are not interlocking. And so he turns around, dropping the bits of the glaive, is going to move at a brisk pace over directly to Vale. while still telling him, not shouting, but trying to be audible, Vale, you need to summon Moyo.
At this point, Vale, you and Brilinya have managed to pull away much of the debris, and you can see this person there. What you see is an old... It's hard to gauge how old, just because he's pretty much covered head to toe in the white dust of being buried in this stone debris. But he has a bald head. He has a sort of longish. He's got that fringe of hair, and it sort of hangs down to halfway down his neck, and you can see a sort of thin, almost chin strap of a beard, and no mustache, but a bit of a soul patch as well. He's thin, very thin. He looks like he could be anywhere from 40 to 80, given his current state. As Dunala, at this point, comes up to you, telling you to summon Moyo.
Okay. He has no stubble?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to see a lot of details just because of all of the debris, like the dust and stuff, but...
I was going to say, because it's like, look, if that guy's got a pretty, like...
No, I'm not saying he's got, like, he just stepped out of the barber shop.
It's like, wait a second here.
No, he didn't just step out of the... I mean, you can see where the dried blood runs down the side of his face. He's got bruising and lacerations all over his body at this point, actually.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm paranoid, but...
What have I done to you to make you guys so paranoid?
Well, I mean, this is like we're in Omu now, so there's some fear, definitely some fear. Okay, I will. Tell you what, I'm gonna roll for this. Yep, I'm gonna listen to Dunala as he's coming towards me, and I think almost just as a reflex action, I kind of grab my simple holy symbol and think about Moyo and having her come to me and summoning her.
And I imagine... No, I'm going to let you do this. How does Moyo come to you in this place?
It's almost as if Moyo has always been around, just in kind of a small spirit form. But in the back of my head, I can hear this deep, booming voice, like a thunderstorm through Chult, saying that, from the land. And you see small bits of stone and pieces of vine begin snaking themselves together. Broken pieces of temple begin rolling itself, and it almost seems like out of vine and twigs and broken stone and moss-covered leaves and the such the things that we would think as detritus from the land suddenly forms itself into this Commodon shape, which just begins to start as like almost a paint is being applied to it, and you see the form of Moyo like coalesce and begin to kind of just be like in mid-run through from nothing to her being there, as she kind of pads her way to stand beside me.
She gives a quick sort of a feline shudder, and you see the dust of the debris that partially formed her sort of fall away. The serpents that curl out of her shoulders just sort of tasting the air around. And as this is happening, Brilinya, you're kind of continuing and you're getting the last bit of debris, and you have been so focused on trying to free this person, just this sign of life, that there was no reason for you to expect that this person would be anybody you would know. And yet you recognize him. This man you recognize is Orvix Okramus. He is a scribe and a historian for the Weeping Friars.
So you see Brilinya just muttering these words of comfort to the man. Just, don't worry, we'll get you out. Just hang in there. And then she gets a really good. So you said he was part of the Reaping Friars?
He works for the Weeping Friars. He wasn't a brother himself, but
Okay.
he worked with them as a scribe, a translator, a historian.
So as she's doing this, and I think it's when this final part of the debris is being removed and she goes to begin to try and heal him and kind of putting in this magic, she looks down, she intakes a sharp breath. Orvix? Is that you?
How do you know my name? Who are you? And you can see his eyes are filled with this from long dried. He seems to be very dehydrated. So it's been a long time since tears have formed, but there's this like goop from all of the debris and possibly tears at one time, and his eyes are almost crusted shut.
She would pour in every ounce of healing she would have or need to put in to Orvix.
So you're dumping in what are you using to heal?
So, all right, to me, I have 7 points of healing hands, 4 1d6 worth of healing light, and a cure wounds.
All right, so I'm not going to make you waste a bunch of spells if you try to guess how many hit points this guy has. But I'll say with your, what was the 7 points? It was
just healing hands.
Healing
it's just
hands?
like a pool.
I'll say with healing hands and a your choice, a first and or second level of cure wounds would be enough to heal him pretty sufficiently.
Okay. That's what she would do then.
This glow, almost by instinct, you just dump this healing energy into him, and he sort of gives a who are you? And his voice now has a little bit more strength to it, but you can tell, despite the healing, he's still very dehydrated. He's very exhausted.
So with that, she would immediately give out her water skin. She would is he free from this rubble?
Yeah, he's more or less, you've cleared enough that he's kind of like now lying in this cradle of debris that you've cleared.
So she would sit very quickly and pull him up so that his head is resting on her arm and he's kind of face up towards her. And she would take her water skin and she would give it to him, and she would take a cloth. Actually, before she gives the water skin, she would take a cloth and dampen it with the water and start clearing away his eyes and cleaning up his face.
as you begin to wipe away at his eyes, and it takes just a moment, and you can see as his eyes sort of adjust to the brightness of the light, and he's looking kind of around, and then his eyes settle on you. Brilinya, is that you? How can this be?
I could ask you the same question, Norvix. What are you doing here?
Well, it's the friars. We sought out this location and attempting to. I don't know how much of this you can understand, Brilinya, but we are looking for something called the Soulmonger. I figured it out. It is the cause of the death curse. We've tracked it at least here to the Forbidden City. But we were attacked by the Yonti. They are very dark and evil. Snake-human hybrids. I can't imagine you've ever seen something so horrifying, Brilinya.
Brother Mateus, is he here? Is he alive?
I don't know. And he can't really see from where he's at. He can't see the courtyard. He says, I don't know who all survived. They came in firing powerful magic spells, balls of fire exploding here and there. I tried to take shelter in this building. It exploded around me. But that was hours or days ago. I'm uncertain.
It's all right. It's okay. You're safe now. Safe here. For now.
What?
And you can see that even though, like, Berlinia's voice is just so shaky, even if she wanted to hide it, she couldn't. And her face is just absolutely devoid of all color.
Tell me, girl, how is it that you've come to be here? I'm afraid I don't understand. Have I actually died?
No. I was sent here by the friars, or to aid in also searching for the soulmonger, but she kind of trails off as tears are just welling up again.
Brother Mateus indicated that he had sent others out ahead of us, but I had no idea that you were one of them. Please, there is some sort of stone jamming into my back. Could you please help me up out of here?
Immediately, Brilinya would stand up and help him to his feet.
As soon as she does that, I'm talking to Moyo like through like psychically, and I'm just having Moyo just get ready. So if this individual tries anything, Moyo gonna have to put him down.
Roll an insight check using Moyo's wisdom.
All right then.
Nat 20. As you're communicating this, the serpents on Moyo's shoulders begin to sort of coil and curl and begin to rapidly taste the air in that area. Moyo gives a soft growl, pads away from you, takes a couple steps toward Orvex. Orvex looks very suddenly caught off guard, very surprised to suddenly see Vale and Deririk and Dunala and this Commodon padding toward him. And as he's leaning on you, Brilinya, you see Moyo approach him. And as big as she is, she does that thing where cats just sort of brush up against the leg of somebody. And she kind of presses him into you, Brilinya. And then you just hear this deep as Moyo appears to sense no hostility within Orvex Kramus.
Orvex, these are the others. Well, yeah, these are the others who are... We're all searching.
You are all with Brilinya, searching for the soulmonger. It appears as though all sorts have come to Chult in search of this. I fear the Yonti, they are also searching as well. I don't know if even you realize how close you are, Brilinya. Please, I need to rest and would humbly beg of food and drink of you, and I will tell you what I know. And at this time, if you guys would like to take a at least a short rest, you can decide if you want it to turn it into a long rest.
I think Brilinya would look to the others. We can rest here for a while, can't we?
You get no complaint from me.
We need to pick a building and we need to go inside of it if we are going to rest. We're in the open here.
So just a preliminary scan. Can I see any smaller building that looks like we can hole up in it pretty safely?
There are not only small buildings, but large buildings. So for the purposes of this map, we're going to say that this is this sort of round building in the middle of the compound, off on the left there, where you found him. So you can go in pretty much any direction around this compound, to the bigger buildings to the north, slightly smaller buildings to the south. There is this building right near the entrance. Wish I had a pointer on screen.
Well, that one with what looks to be like the kind of slanted roof or slightly slanted roof, that's probably like a medium size. If that's a medium sized building that could hold, 5 humans or 5 individuals.
That building is easily probably about 60 feet by 60 feet.
Oh wow! Okay, so
yeah, this whole compound is about 250 feet by about 300 feet.
Okay, nice, good size building then.
Yeah.
All right. Then I'd probably suggest that one, as long as it doesn't look like there's too many gaps or too dilapidated.
There's a couple scorch marks on the outside. It looks like some fire spells or something hit it when they first came in. As you begin moving through, Orvex looks around the courtyard. at all of the dead, charred bodies. Oh. He sort of leans heavily into you, Brilinya. Oh dear. Oh dear. So many of them. They were innocent. And anymore, they were supposed to protect us. And he's sort of looking and scanning at the bodies. And he just can't bring himself to look anymore as he follows you towards this building. Once inside, you guys are able to easily set up a sort of in a corner comfortably. There's no real furniture in here. There's some a bit of plant life encroaching, but it's easy enough to find comfortable places to lean against the wall. And Orvex will begin to tell you what he knows.
Do you make any reaction to me as a Wanty?
Are you presenting as a Wanty?
Not fully, but it's no, never mind. Yeah, he's not.
Then no. And you're not entirely sure he can see too well at this point. He is very exhausted. But do you share food and water with him then? So yeah, as you guys and again, you can decide as we proceed here if you want to turn this into a long rest, but Orvex tells you there were 34 of us when we were attacked. Father Mateus was here. I don't know, Brilinya, if his body lies amongst those out there. But many of them were mercenaries. Mateus had hired mercenaries to guide us and protect us. Some of them were from the organization from out of Baldur's Gate, the fort up north, the Flaming Fist, I think they were called. And 7 of them were bearers hired in Port Nyanzaru to help with our gear. All of them appear dead. You see, it was I who had learned that it was the soulmonger that was here, somewhere in Omu. But I fear it is not going to be as simple as walking in, finding it, destroying it. I'm not entirely sure, Brilinya, that Brother Mateus wants to destroy it. I fear the Yonti may also be searching for it. But, you know, the only reason I've ever stayed with the Friars, because Brother Mateus paid well. Don't know if he's even around to provide payment anymore. I'm not even sure how I'm going to make it back. But let me tell you all what I know. And perhaps I could accompany you as your historian and guide. I know this region. I know more than perhaps all but maybe a true Omuan would know. And his eyes sort of seem to kind of light up a little bit at this idea. Tell me, do any of you know of the god known as the absentee god, Ubtao?
I think immediately Brilinya would look to Vale, then to Dunala.
One just might say that I've heard of him, yeah.
There is no point in being humble, Vale. Be honest with him.
I've spoken to Ubtao. He has called me his voice here in Chult.
I'm sorry. I'm very dehydrated, very exhausted, but did you say Ubtao had spoken to you?
Yes. I follow in his name. I swore an oath. Even though I didn't remember swearing an oath, but I did swear an oath to him nonetheless. And now I am his voice, and I am the meter of his will.
Oh, my. I should have more questions for you, I'm certain.
And I should have need to try and rest. Flying in from so far away has left me tired.
You flew in here? Did you have an airship?
No,
I
I flapped
carried
my
all
arms like
three
a
of them.
bastard.
Sorry, I heard Eric say I carried all three of them. I didn't hear what Vale said.
I flapped my arms like a bastard.
Brilinya, you have certainly taken up with some interesting companions. Well, tell me, O voice of Ubtao, what then do you know the 9 trickster gods? Do you know why your god Ubtao was called the absentee god?
Well, I assume he buggered off. I mean, you don't exactly go in questioning a god, asking them why they do what they do. I mean, it's generally not good for one's health, if you know what I mean.
I can only imagine that to be true.
If that's the case, you might as well go ask Mask why he just loves nicking things, or go ask Asmodeus why he just likes being a red-clad dick.
Well, let me tell you the story of the nine gods. And perhaps when I'm done, you will find yourself wanting to seek them out. Perhaps ask them yourselves. Long ago, Ubtao hardened his heart and vowed to weep for the people of Omu no longer. When he left, the rain stopped. The jungle withered and died. And death swept through Omu. One morning, wise Zorbo emerged from her hollow tree and spoke to the dying Omuans. And Eric, you would know a Zorbo, and perhaps Dunala as well, being from this region. And Brilinya and Vale, you actually saw some Zorbos when you were on the river back when you were traveling with Ubo and with Cole. They were snarling at you from the trees. They were these sort of almost demented looking koala bear creatures. One morning, a wise Zorbo emerged from her hollow tree and spoke to the dying Omuans. To convince Ubtao of their worth, she decided to cook him a stew made from all their good qualities. Catching such virtues wouldn't be easy, so she asked a wily El Mirage, these are the rabbits with the unicorn horns, to help her. The Almirage snuck recklessness into the pot, which she saw as a virtue, and Ubtao spat out the stew when he tasted it. From that day on, Obolaka, the Zorbo, and Ijin, the Almirage, became terrible enemies. At noon, brave Kamadan. At this point, he sort of reaches over and pats, almost speaking to Moyo. A brave Kamadan hopped down from her rock. She saw the evil in the Omuans' hearts and decided to lance it like a troublesome boil. The Kamadan fashioned a holy spear. She left it by the riverbank. The crafty Grung stole it. In her rage, Shagambi the Kamadan forgot all about the Omuans and chased Nang Nang the Grung forever across the sky. When evening came, a wily Ibli stepped from his reed hut. He did not like the Omuans, but without them, he'd have no one to play his tricks on. Ibli sent a marsh frog to reason with Ubtao, but the frog was angry and decided to wrestle the god instead. This amused Ubtao, so he gave the frog tentacles to make it stronger. When Kubazan the Frog-Emoth returned to Papazotl the Ibli, he chased Papazotl into the swamp with his new tentacles. That night, a Sioux monster broke into Ubtao's place and stole a pail of water from the Omuans. When the god came running to find it, the Sioux monster hid the pail in a Jaculi's burrow. Ubtao asked the jungle animals where his water was hidden, and Moa, the Jaculi, was too honest to lie. When Wongo, the Sioux monster, found out how Moa had betrayed him, he vowed to catch the Jaculi, beat him up. All the while, Unk, the flail snail, lived deep under the earth. The noise of the other animals fighting made her slither up to the surface. And when day dawned over her shell, the light blinded Ubtao and made his eyes water. Life returned to Omu, and the people built shrines. Honor the animals who'd saved them. Now, of course, all of this is told in the traditional storytelling methods of fables and such as the Omuans were wont to tell. But it is no fable that the shrines to the 9 trickster gods lie here within the forbidden city of Omu. It is believed that within those shrines you will find the keys needed to open the temple of the 9 gods, wherein resides the soulmonger. That is, if you can find the keys before the others do.
Well, I guess we'd better go and find those keys once we're rested up. And just a quick out-of-character question. If we do have a long rest, does that take away all of the exhaustion?
No. Long rest, I believe. Long rest. I'm just going to reference this real quick. My favorite reference for conditions and long rests and stuff is the Dungeon Master screen. Let's see here. Where did... Oh, there we go. Of course it doesn't say. I think it is one level of exhaustion per long rest.
Okay, well, then I mean, if
how many levels do you have?
2. So, I mean, if we do one long rest, I can get all my slots back and at least lose 1 level of exhaustion.
I
think that Brill should use a spell slot, and then we can long rest. Because she's getting the spell slot back regardless, and then you lose both of your exhaustion levels.
That is a perfectly wonderful idea.
Yes, there are certain spells that can reduce exhaustion.
Please hit me with your second level spell slot, Blessing of the Red Bull.
I was going to say 5-hour energy drink.
So I have the Charm of Restoration that I got from...
From Ubtao.
Yes. So...
Is that a one-time effect, or was that a persistent?
Yes.
Well, it's 6 charges.
Yes,
4
that's correct.
of greater and 2 of lesser restoration. So, yeah.
So, who all is exhausted?
I have 1 point that will be going away from this long rest.
And then Vale had picked up 2 points. And Orvex is actually has you would be able to ascertain this from having spent some time with him. Orvex is actually suffering 3 levels of exhaustion.
Oof.
Which a long rest will cure one of those.
So,
Now, your charges on your charm were, once they're gone though, right?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so if we do 1 long rest, you can expend 1 lesser, right? So that'll take 1 away.
I think only greater restoration
Yeah. Only greater.
takes out exhaustion.
Damn restoration.
And you don't have greater restoration on your spell list?
I do not.
No, it's one spell slot above.
What you have access to?
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, we're just going to level up.
Pretty sure I don't.
No, I think it's a 4th level spell anyways.
Greater Restoration is a 5th level spell.
Yes. Fifth
Ah.
one.
Oh, and I don't even get it. Huh, well, there you go.
Okay. So I think I'm gonna do 1 on Vale and 1 on Orvex.
Okay, so Orvex will have now at 2 levels. Well, actually, when you guys wake up, and we'll say because of the time it took for getting him actually dug out and getting over here and the storytelling, it's late enough in the evening that you guys could just call it a night and go through the night, sleep through the night, take your rest if you want to start up in the morning. Are you going to set any kind of watches overnight?
I think Eric is one of the most comfortable with watching for the
Actually,
most part.
Brilinya doesn't need to sleep,
Oh, that's right.
so it's my aspect of the moon invocation. So I think that Brilinya would just kind of say to everyone, "Please, everyone, get a good night's rest. I will stay up and keep watch."
If memory serves me correctly, Moyo also doesn't need sleep. So I asked Moyo if she could please help Brilinya and watch over her, because Moyo doesn't need to eat, sleep, or drink or any of that stuff because she's a badass.
Very well. So as you all prepare to settle in for the night, having heard the story of the legend of the 9 gods and Omu, and seeing now that how it's tied in, you can begin to understand perhaps how it is that the Weeping Friars and the Yuan-Ti are also searching for these things. And we can discuss that when we come back from a short break. We're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break, which I completely forgot to set up the timer. So we will time it based on the new promo video that is going to be playing. So if you're watching in the audience, please do stick around and watch the promo video. You'll actually see a behind-the-scenes camera, so you'll be able to see when I get up from my desk and when I return. But we will return in just about 10 minutes, maybe a hair longer. We'll see how that works out. So go ahead, refresh your drinks, use the restroom, do what you got to do. We will be back in just a few moments. Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is The Intermission. Mini Terrain Domain, or MTD, is a channel dedicated to the love of and participation in the world of tabletop role-playing games. Whether we're designing encounters or miniature terrain, building worlds or dice towers, or just playing games, everything we do here is because we love this amazing hobby. That is why the mission statement of Mini Terrain Domain is simply imagine, build, play. If you like to watch live play or actual play D&D games, you can do so at twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain 3 days a week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. On Sundays, you can join us for Chult of Personality, a long-running campaign set in the Tomb of Annihilation adventure setting. On Mondays, you can join us for All That Glitters, a Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign guaranteed to be epic proportions. And every Thursday night, you can join us for Dawnbringers, the Forge of Fury. This is a series of mini campaigns going across the gamut of several well-known modules. Season 1, which is available on youtube.com/Mini Terrain Domain, took place in the Sunless Citadel. And Season 2 is currently taking place in the Forge of Fury. If you can't join us in the chat for our live shows, that's okay. You can usually catch the roleplay, or rather the replay, on YouTube just 2 days later. If you're a fan of what we do here and you'd like to support what we do, there are a variety of ways you can do this. First, simply follow the Twitch channel or hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Next, make sure you follow all of the participants of each game or show on their various social media platforms. To do this, if you're watching live with us on Twitch, you can simply type an exclamation point and that person's name into the Twitch chat, or on YouTube, you can look down below the information bar and all of their links can be found there. Finally, if you would like to provide monetary support, which flows right back into the production of the channel so we can continue making great content, you can join the growing list of patrons on Patreon. Additionally, you can also use Ko-Fi or Coffee to buy a coffee or two. I like coffee. But the absolute best way to support the channel is to follow and subscribe on Twitch and YouTube and join us in the chat. If you have an Amazon Prime account and you link it to your Twitch account, you can subscribe to one channel per month absolutely free. No matter what you decide to do, we are just happy to have you here. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more great content in just a few moments. Remember, metadata!
Hi everyone, I'm V and I have the YouTube channel The Crafting Muse. Please be sure to go over there and check it out if you too would like to learn how to make some tabletop terrain, paint miniatures, as well as some game accessories. I'm always happy to have new subscribers over there.
Learn the ways of the Game Master, the Dungeon Master, and delve into the minds of the players. If you're looking for adventure, excitement, thrills, and a dice-rolling good time, grab the modules each month and play the campaign with your gaming group with quest givers DM Scotty and DMG. They're taking you on an epic journey through the role-playing experience every Friday. You're sure to get hooked on adventure.
And we really liked the idea of creating adventures together, so we thought that'd be a lot of fun to share with you guys.
I didn't think this kind of stuff would come out of my brain. We are quest givers, and I'll see you in the next video.
Adventure Mixtape, a music and adventure anthology, is a collection of 4 adventures for the 5th edition of the world's most popular role-playing game. The adventures are setting neutral and meant to be seamlessly dropped into any world that has a large seaside city and a jungle environment. With a bit of adaptation, the environments could be changed to suit any group. In Treaty of the Tiger King by Kelsey Dion of the Arcane Library, a distant king arrives at the city to negotiate the peaceful end of a war, but the Mercenary Guild has other insidious plans for him. Will the players be able to thwart assassination attempts against King Rami and help him negotiate circles of social intrigue in order to finally end the war? In Madness of the Majestic Menagerie by Ken Brees of Burling's Beard, the famous Majestic Menagerie draws hordes of visitors to the metropolis and cultural hub known since time immemorial as Splendor by the Sea. But now the gates of the famous zoo have been shut, and the grand opening of the new section has been jeopardized by a spate of mysterious accidents and, it's whispered, grievous injuries due to uncontrollable creatures. Mr. Majestic seeks to hire investigators and troubleshooters who can keep a low profile to iron out any problems before the impending grand opening becomes a complete disaster. Do you have what it takes to uncover what's driving the madness that's befallen the Majestic Menagerie? In The Infernal Collection by Sharong Biswas, when an influential fashion designer is found dead days before a major fashion show, heroes are called in to solve the mystery, prevent any further destruction, and help the fashion house prepare for the show. Gorillas in Their Midst by Jacob W. Norman of Mini Terrain Domain is a pulp action adventure wrought with perilous challenges and high possibility of death. But what is adventure without danger? Of course, there is the lure of vast piles of unclaimed treasure and the accompanying fame that await those intrepid adventurers who would defy the odds and plunge into the heart of darkness. In this adventure, the characters will face raging river rapids, wicked waterfalls, poisonous plants, venomous vines, and the vicious jungle demon itself, Awakane Gori. Grab your satchels, fedoras, and bullwhips. Adventure awaits. The Adventure Mixtape also comes with 4 original songs inspired by and written for the heroic adventures herein. This collection of music and story is something unique. We had no better word for it than mixtape. If you ever received a cassette, CD, or digital playlist curated to take you on a memorable journey, then you'll recognize what you find inside this volume. Also included in the Adventure Mixtape, courtesy of Kelsey Dion of the Arcane Library, are exclusive combat cards. Special cards that contain all of the items, monsters, and spellcasters found within these adventures to make running your adventure all the more easier. Adventure Mixtape, a music and adventure anthology, is available exclusively on drivethrurpg.com.
Cryfall, once home to the most wondrous kingdom the world had ever known, blasted to nothing in just a fortnight. It is here that the fiends of hell walk among us. It is here where all things die. Welcome to Cryfall. Demon invaders roam the landscape and have conquered all. The world is a ravaged and wrathful wasteland, where the old world lies buried beneath the blood and sand with its gods and its secrets. Water is fought over with blood and steel. Compatible with the 5th edition of the world's oldest fantasy role-playing game, this book contains all new character creation options, including all of the familiar classes with new aspects befitting the ravaged wastelands of Cryfall, along with new backgrounds, subclasses, spells, feats, and so much more. New races will allow you to play as the cursed Ash Elves, the Forsaken Humans, the Primordial Incarnate, the Proud Orcs, the Reptilian Suri, or the Infernal-Blooded Tieflings. New game mechanics such as blood, grit, and effort give your games an intense focus on lethality and survival. Numerous roll tables full of ideas to help bring your games to life. Featuring incredible thematic art by Brandish Gilhelm of Broodhammer Games, as well as Lloyd Collins. The people of Cryfall are not heroes. In Kryphoth, it is courage just to survive. Will you rise to face the tide of demons, or will you succumb to the hostile elements? Available now on DriveThruRPG.com.
And we're back. And yes, real quick, as some people in the chat are noticing, I have not yet entered in the characters for this campaign with the chat commands, but I will get those put in there this week. And I'm glad you guys like the behind-the-scenes camera. Yes, you can see me scratching my back, but you can also tell when I'm back at my desk, which means it's about time to get back into it. So we are back, and I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to go right into the next morning, or did you guys want to have some in-character conversations before you call it a night, since you do have extra time? I mean, you stumbled into this, you've talked to Orvex, who Brilinya seems to know, and he's told you his story and would like to accompany you to assist with his abilities. He has also informed you that in addition to being a historian, he can also easily translate the old Omuan script. So we are back in it. You can decide now if you wish to ask him any questions, talk amongst yourselves, or what you want to do.
I mean, I'm probably going to be so tired. I'm going to head right to sleep, and yeah, just sleep the sleep of the dead. So I'll leave it to anyone else.
I think that in the young hours of the morning, my alarm goes off. Wait, okay, time to wake up, everyone. All right. Brilinya is sitting with her knees up to her chin, and I almost imagine that Moyo is kind of just sitting next to her, and she's been doing a lot of thinking about the friars, about Orvex, and I think she would shift so that she is now on her knees in a prayer like position. She would fold her hands and she would pray not to Ilmater, but to whomever gave her her powers, to whomever the weeping friars had sewn her or had bound her soul without her knowledge, even, because since she could barely even speak, and that's all that matters, is that all that mattered is that she could say the few words needed, and so she was very young. And she has never prayed to this thing because she has always thought that it might even have been Ilmater himself, though the brothers never claimed that. It was just a friend of Ilmater. And so she would say, please, whoever you are, I'm at such a loss with where I am right now. Everything that I thought, everything that I believed is now being put into question, and I am so lost. I feel so forgotten by Ilmater and by you. though I don't know who you are, and I don't expect you to do anything for me, since you already give me power and enable me to do whatever, but I just wanted to implore you, since I cannot turn to anyone else, please protect my friends. If not through me, I never was very good at the prayers that I have not memorized over and over again, that I see in my sleep behind my lids, and I feel so guilty for that. But I hope that my words are pleasing to your ears. Please help them. And after that, she would return to her previous position of sitting with her knees kind of tucked up to her chin.
As you are finishing this prayer, excuse me, as you are finishing this prayer, you hear a soft rustle over near the door to this building that you all came into. And looking over, you see a slight bit of movement from around the edge of the door. And then you see a small animal figure sort of take a tentative half step, half hop forward as what appears to be a large rabbit with a single horn protruding from its forehead, an El Mirage. But this one is different than what you've seen or heard of. This one has golden fur, and it nibbles at a little bit of sweet grasses that it can find growing up through the cracks of this courtyard just outside this door. Turns and it looks at you, chewing thoughtfully. And whether it's a trick of the light or your imagination or it actually happened is up to you to figure out. But it looks like this El Mirage winks at you. It turns and it hops away. And the last receding light of the setting sun, a ray of sunlight passing through the jungle canopy nearby, catches it and illuminates its golden fur. And it takes another hop, and its legs seem to elongate, and its body almost transform. So it has an almost stag-like appearance. Its rabbit tail turning into a long, flowing white tail, and it leaps into the beam of sunlight and seems to sort of float upward through the sunlight and dissipate. And when it's gone, you're not entirely sure if you just saw what you thought you saw. But that's what you saw. So everybody else, what are you doing? Vale's asleep. Dunala, Eric.
Eric is somewhat of an early bird and would wake at the first sign of anything happening. He's pretty awoke or awaken a walk as early as he needs to be, and will probably tend to the fire or even pluck small game from the surrounding woods, actually going as far as maybe a quarter mile or so out, just to get something to eat and bring it back.
So you're hunting for food.
Yeah, as a kind of it's almost like a morning ritual for Eric.
Would you be hunting something specific, or are you looking for whatever you can find?
More of whatever I can find that is small and probably palatable for human mouths, more so than avian beaks.
Make me a survival check.
All right. Gonna be a 14.
A cheat sheet. Let's see. Oh, okay. Let's see. With that, I would say you don't see a lot of the usual wildlife, but a few hundred feet to the east, northeast, probably about 150 yards or so. There's this sort of swampy river, and there's where it cascades down into that large. I'm gonna bring the map up. Where it cascades down into a big billowing steam into the lava flow area, but up above there a little ways, you are able to find some large frogs, some turtles, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I'll bring back. I think this lower result will cause me to tarry a bit longer than normal, as I'm having to kind of scrounge in the swampy area, bring them back. Maybe even some kind of large fish or something, some frogs and turtles, and I guess in the morning they would notice that Eric is gone, and then I'd come back eventually with kind of like a basket full or a bag full of just various swamp creatures.
All right, Eric has returned with a basket of swamp critters for breakfast.
I brought you some food. We, as at Kirsabal, we have a certain dish that outsiders love very much. It is the leg of frog. Salted and cured the Kirsabalan way. Do you wish to try the Eric Cochrane breakfast or no? As he rings over to these creatures to the fire that I think that we've set up. Kind of starting to skewer them onto little sticks and setting them up to roast.
Oh, just have gotten up at this point. I just kind of sniff the air and something cooking.
May we? Yes, of course. You have a sharp nose.
I'll have a look. I'll have a look at it and. Oh, that looks good. All right. And you doing all right, Brill? You had a long night last night.
Yes, but Moyo kept me great company.
Good to hear. And I'll pat Moyo on the head. Dunala, are you awake?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we should be, going out to look for these keys.
Better eat first. And he hands you just a nice roasted frog.
Fair enough. I'll pull off a leg and start eating it. especially someone
What are you?
who's I have eaten frog's legs in real life, and yes, chicken.
And one for you, and one for you. And he's just passing around this roasted breakfast. And he also does give one to Moyo, despite someone had said earlier out of game that Moyo does not need to eat. Eric would still offer one to the beast.
Orvex is eagerly taking any offered food. He does look a little better this morning. The last remaining hit points have healed him up. He's kind of used a little bit of well, actually he eats and then he kind of steps outside this structure that you guys are in, and are you cooking the food inside the building, or I mean, it's perfectly fine if you are. I'm just trying to figure out where you are. So yeah,
inside. There's probably like a smoke hole in the building. I don't imagine one not having.
Yeah, he kind of steps outside and he finds an area where there's like a little bit of plants and stuff and some collected dew, and he kind of gives himself a quick we'll call it a pauper's bath here, as he cleans the rest of the dust off of him, and he's just outside of where you guys are, like one building over. And so the rest of you guys are just kind of getting ready for the day to head out and investigate the Lost City. So Orvex comes back and he's got this rag and he's kind of standing in that same doorway, standing in a beam of sunlight in the same place where you saw this El Mirage, Brilinya. And he's got this wet rag and he's just sort of wiping away the last little bit. He's got it kind of up to his face as he's like, I certainly am glad to be able to be rested up, and I look forward to assisting you in today's. And he's sort of trailing off and he's looking off at something you can't see, this doorway that sort of faces towards the courtyard. And he's looking in the direction of the gate that you had all entered this compound through. Brilinya, I think you should come here.
Yes, of course. What's the matter? And she would go.
As you come outside, and he kind of steps out of the way to let you by, and you peer around to where he's looking, and where this gate was completely disintegrated, looked like it had been blown apart in the Yanti attack on this compound. The entire front gate area appears to be filled with this mass of vegetation, vines, flowers, jungle grasses, and it's huge. It's very large, and you can actually see as this mound, as you're looking at it, it sort of undulates and shifts forward toward you. And you see, as the vegetation shifts, you see first one, then another of these wild dogs that had previously been feasting on the corpses, is embedded in the vegetation. Vines twisting and ripping through their skin, but they are still alive. And you can hear their howls as this mass of vegetation begins shambling towards you. What would you like to do?
Brilinya would immediately look over to the others in alarm, and there's something coming towards us. It's very large.
Perhaps it wants a taste of my exquisite cuisinerie.
As you reach into the fire, Eric, like to grab like a piece of food for the joke, you see the fire change flames to jade, and then the fire completely disappears, reappearing in Dunala's hand, and I am casting Fireball on this shambling creature.
Very well. That's what I
Did you
had
go
in mind.
outside to see it? Because if you're inside the building,
I would be going outside when
Okay.
Brill's saying that.
Okay.
I don't even wait. I mean, it could just be, like a shambling mouse, like, pardon me, sir, but I seem to have lost my way here in the wonderfully secreted and
these
dangerous
dogs
city of
Allow me to tell you about our Lord and Savior
Ubo.
Ubtao.
Yeah, it could have been like, have you have time to see the good word? This is the great god Ubtao, and he resides here in Chult. May I
Don't
sit
mind
down
his
for some
posture. He's got a bit of a bad back.
In light of what Mike said, I'm not just casting Fireball, I'm upcasting it to 4th level because I don't want to hear all that chill stuff coming out.
All right. As you begin to pull the fire into your hands, I'm going to have you all roll for initiative.
Why not?
27 for Dunala.
Damn, see? And you were like, that alert
Finally,
feat
yeah,
doesn't do anything.
Now the alert feat wants to work for me.
The alert feat, it does nothing. That'd be a big old 9 for me.
I also got a 9.
All right.
Copycat.
Brilinya, what'd you get?
16.
All right. So
I think I was parroting you.
it's going to be Dunala. You will get to launch off your fireball. Followed by Brilinya, the shambling mound. And then
I'm not sure. Do you have a higher dex than I do?
I have the highest that a mortal can be for Dex. So.
Oh, so you have a 20?
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah, you definitely beat me. But even so, I would still like to try and push Eric into the path of the fireball. Just for all the terrible bird
just
puns.
for all the
this
bird
session.
puns.
Just for all the bird puns. Just gonna, you know what? It's just like, nope. We're having quite enough of you, sir.
And for some reason, Vale cries out, "That's enough, Connor."
Yeah, just completely fourth wall breaking. Deadpool even pops up and goes, like that kind of.
All right.
Eric is like, oh, Eric quails. Ah.
All right, Dunala. So you're casting a 4th level fireball.
Yeah, it would be a DC 16 dex save.
I need to get my dice cam out. That is an 18 on the die.
Damn, I should have gave a disadvantage for this.
Which is a 17 total. So it does succeed, so it will take half damage.
It takes half of 41, so however you want to round that.
Oh. Okay. It is now Brilinya's turn as Dunala launches this jade green fireball at it. And it's weirdly, it seems to sort of almost absorb some of the flame.
Brilinya walks out into away from the opening so she can get a better view of this thing. How far away is it?
Well, let's go back to our map screen real quick so you can get a refresher that you guys are in this little compound. You're in the building, so there's that break in the wall right there on the right side of the compound. And you guys are in that little building, and it's pretty much coming up alongside that, blocking the exit of the compound. So that would put it within, I'd say at this point, probably about 30 feet of you.
You can see that Brilinya's something different happens. Brilinya outstretches her hand as if she's going to release some sort of magical energy from it. But instead, this figure forms behind her. And it is it's very large, and it is a large rabbit with a horn. And it shimmers in the light. And she takes her hand and she points towards the mound. Please help my friends. And this rabbit bounds towards the this mound and is going to spear it with its horn, just kind of go through it, and it has to make a dexterity saving throw.
That is another 18 on the die, so a 17 total.
So it fails. It takes 20 radiant damage.
All right. It does not call out or cry out, though you see what could be described as a mouth, jagged pieces of bark forming trees. Nope, teeth. Jagged pieces of bark forming what looks like teeth as it opens this sort of maw as you strike at it. And it is going to use this turn to, it sort of undulates forward with vines and vegetation slithering, one thick, almost like a tendril, like arm-like appendage reaching forward, and vines crawl along it, grasping at the pavement, almost as if it's growing, pulling it forward. You see within this undulation one of these still alive wild dogs trying to escape and then engulfed again by this mound. As it shifts forward, you see a couple of dead, charred bodies within it as it is picking up bodies that were nearby as it moves forward. And I said it was 30 feet away from you, so it stops at... now it's going to use its entire movement to get right up on top of you, being the closest. And Dunala's right there too, and anybody else that came out. Orvex is kind of backing away into a corner. Orvex, more of a scribe. He does have a dagger that he had on his belt and a short sword, but he doesn't seem too adept at using them or too willing to use them. So that is the Shambling Mound's turn. Eric.
I imagine there's a second exit out of this building, and that the Shambling Mound is at one of them where Brilinya Dunala is.
At this point, it's not blocking an exit. It's sort of off to the side.
Is it threatening the exit at least? If I were to go through there, would it?
No, it's not. No, you'd be able to go out without attracting an attack of opportunity.
Cool. Eric will zip out using both his move and his bonus action as a rogue, to between lateral movement and flying up in the air, just to get a nice vertical advantage in the skies. So I have 25 walk and 50 flying to use here.
Yep.
Between two movement actions.
Yep.
So how high in the air would you think I'd be after this?
Well, I'd say it'd probably take you about 10 feet of movement to get outside. So
all right,
you can be a good 50, 60 feet up probably.
Oh yeah, so I'll go literally as high as I can. It's and from this aerial advantage, just fly along. What do you call it? Let loose an arrow down at this this plant creature from high up. And there are creatures within melee of it, correct?
Yes, because it moved right up on Brilinya.
Nice. That's an 18 to hit.
That is going to hit.
Oh,
so yes, you will get your sneak attack.
Oh, that's a shit roll. 8 plus 5 is 13 points of piercing damage.
Your arrow sinks into the mass of vegetation.
Does it seem like it was able to shear through any plant material? It did look like it was, the most
I mean, yeah,
ineffective thing in the
you
world.
see it just like if you shoot through a tree or a bush, you see some leaves and things kind of spray outward. Maybe some a little bit of seeping white, like milkweed,
Gotcha. Yep.
Is that your turn?
I will make a shrill bird call to try and distract it.
All right, Vale.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll go running up to it. I will go running up to it, and I'm gonna smack it. However, okay, yeah, I'm gonna hit it, and that's a 23 to hit.
That will indeed hit.
Yar, and that'll be 13 points piercing damage. Magical piercing damage.
All right.
And feeling extra spicy, so I'm gonna hit it again. That's a 17 to hit.
That will hit it.
Okay. Well then. Sweet. And that's going to be 15 points of magical piercing damage.
All right.
Okay.
All right then.
And I'm going to kind of I'm going to be right beside Brilinya attacking this thing because this thing is right up on Brilinya. So for Brilinya's case, know that you have the aura of protection, so you get a +3 bonus on saving throws, and you have resistance to damage from spells if this thing does that, but I have a feeling that it's just going to cast Fist over and over again.
And you cast that on Brilinya? Or
I don't cast it, I just naturally have it.
Yeah,
so anyone else within 10 feet of me would also have the same thing.
Well, if you're attacking it, then Dunala is also currently, unless Dunala moves, because you're pretty much right up on this thing, or rather, it came right up on you. So, with that, then it is Dunala's turn.
Dunala looks at this thing up and down to see the state of it, and then he reaches into his robes and he pulls out a patch that is black in color. He pulls the string with his teeth and he throws his powder into the middle of the shambling creature. As the powder touches it, everywhere it touches turns black, and this blackness spreads rapidly. I'm casting Blight on the creature. Since it's a plant creature, it will have disadvantage on the saving throw and take max damage.
All right. My 2 seems fitting for a shambling mound. My 2 green and black dice.
That will be a con save, DC 16.
Constitution. All right. With disadvantage, that is going to be a total of 5.
Perfect. So it takes 64 points of damage as his powder touches it, and the blackness just spreads insanely quickly.
So you see, as before you, where you touch it, you hear that sort of, it almost sounds like a scream, but it's that high-pitched sound just as moisture is escaping from the vines. As where you touch it, they begin to turn black and shrivel away. It sort of rises up, and one of its vine-like appendages breaks away as it shifts, and more of where it was, these tendrils of vines were grasping out, they're just cracking away. And the blade extends along these appendages, and then you begin to see where this blackness is as fresh shoots of green begin to sort of wend their way out and around from the interior of this thing. You've dealt a very significant blow to it, but it seems to have much strength left.
Perfect. Seeing this, Dunala will, reaching back into his robe, grab another pouch, and he will begin moving backwards away from it, knowing that it can attack him doing so, but he needs to put space between him and this monstrosity.
It is going to take an attack of opportunity against you. That is a natural 2 on the die. So that's going to be a miss.
I like to imagine, like, as the vines shoot out, like Dunala's ducking, and he quickly throws out like a bit more blight, and then the vines reaching out to him just wither and break away.
Yeah, absolutely. So that then will take us to Brilinya. This thing is right up on you. It seems to have been significantly reduced, and you see it lash at Dunala unsuccessfully. What would you like to do?
Brilinya is going to utter these words in a language of celestial. They sound like a choir, a harmony, a bird singing a sweet melody, and she's going to this sound isn't just words, it isn't just her speaking, it comes out as this force against the this thing, and it has to make a Constitution saving throw.
Constitution saving throw. That is a total of 9.
Right. So it is going to take 8 points of radiant damage.
You see a few more leaves seem to almost burn as the radiant energy hits them. With Dunala out of its grasp, it's got both Brilinya and Vale right in front of it. You see it sort of almost constrict in on itself, and then you hear this sort of almost stretching sound as a mass of vines shoots outward towards you, Vale. Completely missing, slamming into the side of the building. And it's this appendage gets sort of stuck in the side of the building, and because of the way I do critical fails, you get an opportunity attack as Vale as it's struggling to withdraw this appendage.
Sounds good. Let's do this. So this is going to be a divine smite.
Oh boy. So, and as a reminder for those who might be new here, critical hits on MTD are automatic max damage. Then you roll your damage dice one more time.
And it'll be a level 1 smite. So, give me 1 second here. That should be 2d8. Yep. So 2d8 plus 1d8, so 3d8. So that's 24. So it'll be
plus whatever your modifiers are.
Yeah, which is 7, so it'll be 31. And then give me 1 sec to see if I've got. I do have. Oh my god, I've got a lot of inspiration. I am going to burn up 1 inspiration to re-roll this damage die because that sucked. That's way better because that's another 8. Oh no. So let's see. So that's 31 plus 15, so 46 points of just hurt, all the hurt.
You literally sever through the divine energy. Your your rapier working almost like some kind of light sword as it passes through, cauterizing the vines, ripping through it. What's your armor class?
My armor class is now 18.
As you cut through it, the force of swinging your sword down through this, you just miss as its other appendage goes over your head and slams into the side for its second attack. Completely missing with a 15. And that ends its turn. It is... with every movement this mound makes, leaves are falling away from it. Vines and branches are breaking. It is Eric's turn.
Eric again, kind of like swooping around, trying to get another better vantage point from the skies. Knocks another arrow and lets it fly downwards. This is going to be a 20 to hit.
That will hit.
Well, that's a way better attack. So that's 14, 15, 20 points of piercing.
Let's see. Let's do my math again. Wow. You needed 19 points in order to kill this thing. So, Eric, how do you want to end? How do you want to end this?
It'll just be like this. This thing is like reeling and kind of just trying to go for another swipe. I think it like exposes some central part as it's shifting its own mass around to smack people. And he just like found this spot from an aerial kind of back view, and just this arrow comes through and just punctures through a bunch of these vital cords, these tendons made of vines that hold this thing together. And as these snap, it almost as if like if you snip a few strings on on a marionette, it kind of just like falls limply crashing down in certain places and no longer keep its frame upright as these tendons that are holding it together get severed. And as it kind of just writhes on the ground limply, it's easy for one of the other players to just finish it off.
You actually, as you cut through all of these sort of joining tendon-like vines, there's this moment as you're cutting through all of these vines and it's starting to fall apart and writhing. This maw where the tree bark and everything that was sort of like a mouth peels open, and your arrow with its velocity, you see inside it what looks almost like a hornet's nest that has some of these like vines and tendrils attached to it. And your arrow pierces this. And as it breaks apart, the complete infrastructure holding this thing together disintegrates. There's this sound of buzzing that fills the air as hornets, but they swirl up into a cloud and quickly dissipate as the rest of this thing sort of falls, almost like leaves falling shook from a tree. It looks now like somebody did yard work and just put all of this here, with the exception that there are a couple of burnt corpses and there is a partially devoured wild dog. But as it sort of settles, there's this moment where there's a small section of it that sort of quivers and shudders. And then a dog bursts from it, sort of shakes itself off, looks around, and darts off into the jungle, one of the wild dogs having survived. And you are out of combat, having defeated my max hit point shambling mound.
Eric glides down on these, vibrant wings. He's definitely posing. You can tell by his bravado at this. And as he kind of just lands softly, he actually just bows as if he'd just been part of some play. Merci, merci. He
As you
bows and
bow, Eric, but right behind you, where the remains of the shambling mound, the blight takes a more physical form, and basically these snakes of ebony begin to crawl out and consume the rest of the plants. And soon there's like this bubbling mass of black liquid, maybe soot. You can't really tell behind you. Dunala puts away the second pouch.
we are well together as a team. Nothing can catch us by surprise. No.
Brilinya, you hear Orvex as he sort of hesitantly comes up behind you, looking past you all at the remains of this thing. Oh, Brilinya, you certainly have grown in power since last I saw you.
Brilinya would turn and smile. These three have shown me a lot.
All of you. This was a very impressive display of ability. I fear that, well, I don't fear. This is actually, it gives me great hope that Brother Mateus and the whatever remains of the Weeping Friars, or even those Yuan-Ti, may not stand a chance against the four of you. You know, Vale, was it? This may be perhaps more than just a coincidence, as you say you are the voice of Uptau. But based on my notes, the closest of the shrines of the 9 gods, just a few 100 feet outside of this compound, Shagambi's shrine. Shagambi, the Commandant. I now have no doubt that we shall have great fortune seeking out these shrines. Unless you'd like to kill more of the jungle creatures.
No, I think very much we'd like to find these keys and open up the lock.
Well, the only caution is, again, I'm not entirely certain of the disposition of Brother Mateus, or how many of the mercenaries in his service survived, or how many else of the Weeping Friars did. But when we were attacked, we had not yet made our plan of egress on these shrines, so perhaps they will not have continued on.
I have an idea. Do you know what these shrines, or these keys, more importantly, look like?
Well, each shrine was built to honor the individual god, and I don't precisely know what they look like, but I feel as though we'll know them when we see them, if you catch my meaning.
I was going to say, I may have an ability to locate whatever we're looking for. If I could only get a description so it may become familiar to me. I'm not trying to metagame, but it's going in that direction.
Well, perhaps if we investigate Shagambi's shrine, we can get a better sense of what to expect from the rest of the shrines. And perhaps we can see what these keys actually look like, for unless the Yuan-Ti or Mateus has already gained a key, none of us have actually seen them. Come. And he's sort of moving, giving a wide berth to what is now become as if millions of years of compression and what is the word I'm looking for? When things die and they crumble, and what is that word?
Decompose.
Decompose. Thank you. Decomposition.
Oh, come on. I wanted to leave him hanging.
Oh my gosh, that word was nowhere nearby.
Come on, buddy, you got this.
As they crumble into waste.
Stuff.
But essentially, this thing looks like almost like a pool of oil now. He sort of gives it a wide berth and heads through the door, or rather the open gateway of the compound. And just outside there is that, when you first landed, is this sort of raised boulevard that heads north to south. And he sort of scrambles up on top of that and climbing up on some of the loose brickwork and using vines that are clinging to it. He climbs up on there, and he looks to the east and he says, "Yes, there. I believe that is the shrine." And he's indicating, if any of you follow him up onto the wall, he's indicating this straight east. There's what looks like a circle with a slot in it, almost like a large coin with bracketed walls around it. That is where he is pointing. And so do the rest of you climb up on the wall and join him to see?
Eric does not climb up onto the wall with him. He would definitely fly up there, but climbing is something beneath him.
Yunala will finish his prayers over this destroyed creature he's created. And once he's done with those, he will then proceed to climb up the wall.
Brilinya and Vale, you climb as well.
Yes, well, us slowly walking types will probably have to climb. But I'm going to do it really coolly. So coolly, in fact, I cannot describe it. That's how awesome it was.
Because describing it would do a disservice to it,
exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So this is just a tribute to you.
Be careful how awesome you describe your moves, or I'm going to make you roll for them.
That's right. That's why I just said.
All right.
You know what? It was so amazing. Can't be described.
All right. Roll an athletics check.
Athletics or acrobatics?
Athletics. Well, it depends on what you're doing.
Hey, I can't describe
it. You can't describe it. So
really, this is Schrodinger's.
Well, how about a performance check?
Climbing is athletics.
We need a charisma check, to be honest. That's what we're really looking for.
I think we need an Arcana check because he's doing something that's completely just
Let's do a completely new attribute. Let's do like a looks check to see how good you look as you do this.
Okay, well, at any rate, for athletics, it would be a 15. And I don't know what else.
Well, whatever you were attempting to do, you don't fail at, but it's not as impressive as you thought it was.
That's okay. In my head, it was impressive. That's really all that
you
matters.
made it up there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not looking to impress any of these people. I'm just,
Eric,
it looked really cool.
Eric, do you fly up onto the boulevard or do you fly above the boulevard?
I just fly above it. There's no point resting my feet when I got perfectly good wings.
So you all climb up on this boulevard, which you can now see extends for hundreds and hundreds of feet to the north. All along, you can see buildings, Eric especially, all of the buildings of Omu, as you saw as you were coming in. And you can see just about 100 feet to your east this shrine that looks to be about maybe 70 feet in diameter, a stone circular building with ruined walls around it and the jungle kind of encroaching on it. And Eric, you see, from your vantage point, you're the first to see that about maybe 80 to 100 feet away from all of you, north of you on the boulevard, you see 4 figures climbing up onto the boulevard. 4 human figures.
Approaching us or away from us?
They climb up onto the boulevard from where they were, from your vantage point in the air. You can see they were crouched down in the jungle. As they climb up, they raise something in their hands.
A sniper rifle.
Yeah. And you hear, all of you hear this sort of as 4 crossbows fire towards you. You hear the as crossbow bolts go whizzing by. One of the crossbow bolts slams into your shoulder, Brilinya. Ooh, jeez. Hold on. I gotta see what the bonus is on that. Because you just took max damage from a crossbow bolt. And so that's gonna be...
Can I make a reaction? Would it be conceivable, like depending on how far away they are to when they shoot? Can I make a reaction to move in front of Brilinya?
What is your passive perception?
12.
No, you would not have noticed them as you were concentrating on your impressive climbing.
Wow, hoisted on my own petard. Okay, that's fair.
And these crossbow bolts pretty much all happen at once. So as you're kind of being proud of yourself, Brilinya is struck for 11 points of damage as a very thick and heavy crossbow bolt slams into your shoulder. You are knocked back, reeling just like a foot or two. You're not like sent off the wall or anything. But as this hits you, Brilinya, you feel something grasping at your ankles and sort of wending its way up your legs, and you look down and vines are growing up out of the pavement of the boulevard. They're wrapping up around your ankles. They quickly are, you can feel them rapidly, thin tendrils growing up the backs of your legs, kind of following along your spine and across your arms. And this all happens in the space of just a few seconds. As you all kind of reacting to this, you see Brilinya get hit, and then you see as Brilinya sort of is moving oddly, and then one arm goes, is pulled out like this, and then the other arm, as she's pulled into a sort of, her feet anchored, her arms seem to be pulled out like up into the air to the sides. You see tendrils of vines wrapping themselves around Brilinya. Just south of you, about another 100 feet, 3 figures climb the steps up the boulevard. At the lead of them is a violet-skinned tiefling that you recognize as Brother Mateus. Flanking him on either side are the male and female ASMR that you remember from way back when they were stalking you in Port Nyanzaru, and Vale confronted them. As they come up, you see as Brother Mateus, get too many dang books in front of me. You see his Brother Mateus walks confidently towards the 3 of you with Eric up above. And this is all kind of happening just so rapidly that you're noticing as Brilinya is being wrapped up in these vines, Vines are already grasping through it, pulling at the corners of your mouth, Brilinya, and wrapping through quickly, almost less like a gag across, but sort of kind of pulling your mouth wide and filling your mouth with.
I cast a spell or no?
I'm going to say make a perception check. You have a really low passive.
But I cannot be surprised because of alert. So that's like my...
Right.
thing.
I understand that you can't be surprised, but you can't...
It's going to be a 16 total for perception.
All right. I think with that, you would definitely be able to see these figures as a threat. You've never seen Brother Mateus.
But he has read about him in Cole's book.
So, yeah, this is true.
Mm-hmm.
So what spell are you going to cast?
He would turn his head actually to Brilinya, and he would say, "Trust me." And then he's raising his hand, and I'm going to polymorph her into a dove.
Okay.
So she can not be in the vines and fly out of the vines is the goal.
As you I actually have to check something before I say that succeeds. Whoops, right past it. Because I know how the alphabet works. I'm just trying to see if place is restrained. As you cast the spell, the polymorph spell on her, she begins to transform. And you see the shifting in the vines. And it's almost as if her physical ASMR form is ripped from the dove's form. As you see the vines still maintain their hold. And they begin this dove form, almost in a spectral form, just sort of as the spell fails. Brother Mateus steps forward. He does not say anything. As he simply reaches into his robes and he holds up what looks like a diamond. You see the morning sunlight catching it and it glints. He speaks towards the diamond and he just almost casually throws it like a die and it tumbles across the ground, skittering with that tinkling glass sound, landing at Brilinya's feet. You watch as Brilinya begins to and is reduced and pulled inside this diamond.
As Brilinya is doing that, she is going to make one last look at Vale. She doesn't have fear in her eyes, but almost an apology or guilt. As you can see her eyes begin to fill with tears, but the tear does not leave her eyes or does not get a chance as she is sucked into this gem.
As Brilinya is pulled into this gem and the vines seem to sort of dissipate around it, there's a moment where this single tear is left caught in the air as it falls to the ground. And just before it would land on this diamond, where inside you can see a tiny Brilinya captured in the facets of the diamond, just before this tear can fall on the diamond shifts and begins to ting, 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 as one of the two Aasimar holds up their hand, and the diamond into their hand. The other Aasimar reaches out and puts her arm around Brother Mateus and touching the other Aasimar, and the three of them are gone. And that is where we're going to end tonight's session.
Ooh.
Brilinya always getting kidnapped.
Some bullshit. Don't worry,
So,
we're gonna kill that stupid.
That's probably a good point to announce that. What's that?
Just gonna kill Brilinya so she can't be kidnapped anymore. Just,
I was gonna say that's probably a good place to announce that Megan will not be with us next week, as she has travel plans that prohibit her from playing. I'm gonna leave it up to the imaginations of the audience for now. But I'll tell you guys offline what I did. It was all with it was all with.
I thought you meant like where she's going. I'm like, well,
no. It was all done within certain spell effects and things like that. I was hoping Dunala wasn't going to disrupt it too much because
counterspell.
But we would have rolled with it because that's what we do. So yeah, that is our episode 37. Old Scars and Fresh Wounds. I kind of thought the title might kind of tip things off that it was having something to do with Brilinya. But nonetheless, we will return next week, barring any interruptions, with episode 38 minus Megan. Thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. Prupra hanging out with us all night, knowing where in the world you are. You have probably already begun. You're probably already beginning to see those first rays of morning light. Sorry you couldn't sleep, but glad you could join us. Thank you to Swillis, and Gamers Theater was in here as well. Scraticus joined us at one point, and anybody else, if I missed you, I'm sorry. We do appreciate you hanging out with us while we play D&D. And thank you to Mike, Megan, Connor, and Marquise. I love playing this game with you guys, and that's the first time I've ever used a shambling mound. It was kind of fun. Throwing a CR5 solitary monster against 4 level 8s. I didn't think it was going to go. It was going to go too poorly. But it was fun. And you guys now have a new guide of sorts. In the way of Orvex, lest he turn out to be a Yuan-Ti spy as well. But yeah, the great fun. Glad to be back playing this game. So be sure to tune in to right here to twitch.tv/MiniTerrainDomain tomorrow night, where you can see myself, Mike, and Megan, along with the big bearded nerd Dwight, and V from the Crafting Muse, playing All That Glitters Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign. And then Wednesday night I'll be over on Erasmus Expeditions playing the Momentum game. And on Thursday, Megan will be with us again, along with V, Scotty. Or no, I take that back. I saw Megan cock her head like, wait? No, Thursday is Valentine's Day. There will not be a Dawnbringers Forge of Fury game. I keep forgetting that. But nonetheless, you want to stay up to date what's going on, hit that follow icon, subscribe on YouTube, and be sure to check out at MTD_Jake for information on the 10K subscriber giveaway that I'm doing, where you can win one of 3 Game Masters bundles with dice, miniatures, starter sets, and one of them that even includes all of the core rule books and DM screen. So with that, we are going to go ahead and get out of here. We're going to end the stream the same way we end every stream, and you can say it with me if you want. Whoops.